Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking into a story that's really been making headlines recently. It's the case of Bishop Salifu Amoako in Ghana and that fatal car crash involving his son.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Really tragic for sure.
It really is. And we're going to try to unpack this whole thing, looking at the power dynamics, the public outrage, and what this whole situation says about justice in Ghana.
Right, because it really seems like one of those situations where power, privilege, and public perception all collide, especially with a tragedy like this one.
Absolutely. So to make sure everyone's on the same page, let's start from the top. This all began with a video of Bishop Amoako that spread like wildfire online.
Yeah.
In this video, he basically boasts about being above the law, saying he doesn't need a driver's license or even license plates on his car because he believes the police wouldn't even think about stopping him.
Yeah, and he doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
He even goes as far as saying that the police, they salute him, they call him general. It's like he's projecting this image of being untouchable.
It's almost unbelievable, right? And this is where the story takes such a tragic turn. His son, Harold, who is only 16 years old, gets into a car accident while driving his father's Jaguar. Tragically, two young girls lost their lives.
And you can imagine what happened next. That video of the bishop claiming he's above the law, it resurfaced immediately and people were outraged. It raised all these questions about whether the sense of invincibility, maybe even recklessness, played a role in the tragedy.
It's like that old saying, do as I say, not as I do. But in this situation, the consequences were just devastating. It's impossible to imagine the pain those families are going through.
It's truly heartbreaking. And it brings to light the existing distrust that many people in Ghana already have for authority figures and institutions. This case, for a lot of people, it feels like a real-life example of those in power literally acting with impunity.
And if that wasn't enough to process, a Snapchat video surfaced showing Harold speeding in the car just moments before the crash.
Yeah, that was a tough one to see. It really added to the outrage people were already feeling.
Absolutely. And to make matters even more complex, Ghana has specific laws regarding juvenile offenders.
Right, and this is where it gets complicated. According to the Law Guk, a really well-respected legal expert in Ghana, their law actually doesn't allow for minors to be imprisoned, even for serious offenses.
Wait, seriously? Even in a case like this, where two young lives were lost?
Yeah, it's a point of major contention right now in Ghana. The most severe punishment a juvenile offender can face is being sent to a juvenile detention center, and the maximum sentence even then is only 3 years.
I can already see why there's so much outrage. It feels like people are desperate for justice for those young girls, for someone to be held accountable.
And it gets even more complex. The Law Guk also pointed out that, legally speaking, the circumstances surrounding this specific accident might not even meet the legal definition of murder or manslaughter under Ghanaian law.
So we're potentially talking about a situation where Harold, he might face very minimal consequences, even though his actions led to the loss of 2 lives.
Right. And it's understandable why people are furious. They feel like the system is failing them.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to remember that this outrage, it's not just about this one case. It speaks to a much deeper frustration, a feeling that this incident has exposed these really deep cracks when it comes to privilege and accountability in Ghana.
Exactly. It's like this case has become a symbol of something much bigger. This sense that there's one set of rules for the wealthy and powerful and another set of rules for everyone else.
Right, and this perception of inequality within the justice system, it's not exactly new to Ghana, is it?
Not at all. Unfortunately, Ghana has a history of corruption allegations and this idea that there's preferential treatment within the justice system. This case just brought all those simmering tensions to the surface.
It's like this incident has become the tipping point. People are saying enough is enough. They're demanding to see real change, not just talk.
And those demands are taking different shapes. You're seeing protests, people are organizing and calling for really specific reforms, like stricter laws around reckless driving, especially for young drivers, and a real push to see the justice system deliver consequences that truly fit the crime, no matter who's involved.
It's about making sure everyone is held accountable equally under the law.
And that's what this case has ignited, this national conversation about accountability, transparency, and a real need for change to address these deep-seated issues of inequality.
So with all of that in mind, where do things stand right now with the investigation? There were some recent developments, right?
Yeah, so the latest is that both Bishop Amoako and his wife, Moha Amoako, have been arrested as part of the investigation.
Okay, and what does that mean for the case? What are they being investigated for?
So they're currently in custody, but the authorities haven't released many details about the specifics of what they're looking into.
I can only imagine that lack of transparency isn't helping the situation. It just fuels that feeling of distrust people already have.
It definitely adds to the tension. People want answers. They want to see if this will actually lead to any real consequences, or if it's just a PR move to try to calm things down.
It begs the question, will justice actually be served, or will this be another instance where power and influence shield people from facing the full weight of the law?
And that is the million-dollar question right now. It's a real test for Ghana's justice system, and the whole world is watching to see if genuine change is even possible.
It's a lot to unpack, that's for sure. And it feels like Ghana's at a crossroads with this whole thing.
Yeah, there's so much at stake here. It really makes you think about the kind of future people want for Ghana.
Absolutely. And while we're talking about the legal back and forth and everything, we can't lose sight of the human cost of this tragedy. Those two young girls, their families. I mean, how do you even begin to process that kind of loss?
You know, you can't put a price on a life. And those families deserve justice. They deserve answers. And nothing can truly heal that pain, but hopefully there can be some sense of closure, some accountability.
And I think this is where the people of Ghana, their voices, their determination, that's what's going to drive real change in this situation.
100%. This case has struck a nerve, and people are making their voices heard. They're not just sitting back and watching. They're protesting, they're demanding transparency and pushing for real reforms. It's really inspiring to see.
So it's bigger than just one bishop, one car accident, even bigger than those two young girls who tragically lost their lives.
It's about something much deeper. It's about confronting those systemic issues, the corruption, the inequality that's plagued Ghana for too long.
It's about demanding better for the future, for a Ghana where every single life is valued, where no one is above the law, and justice is a reality for everyone, not just a select few.
We've covered a lot of heavy stuff in this deep dive. It's been tough to process, to be honest, all the anger, the grief, the frustration.
Yeah.
But there's also this glimmer of hope, right?
There is. It's a reminder that fighting for justice, it's not easy. It never has been, especially when you're going up against these deeply ingrained systems of power and privilege.
But as we're seeing in Ghana right now, it's a fight worth having. And when people come together, raise their voices, demand better, that's how real change happens. That's how you hold those in power accountable.
And that's what we need to carry with us, even after this deep dive is over. The fight for justice, it doesn't end here. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It takes constant work, empathy, and a willingness to speak up. So thank you all for being here with us today, for caring about this important issue. Let's keep the conversation going, keep asking the tough questions, because that's how we create a better tomorrow for everyone.